Let's fucking go.
Everybody, welcome to the Comic and Movie Show. My name is Deshaun, and today I'm here to tell you why Marvel should reboot Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, I know there is a huge Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. contingent out there. There is a massive, huge is dissect is a bit exaggeratory. There's a loud Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan base out there who absolutely love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., who ride or die for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., who fight tooth and nail. I remember having arguments on Twitter and on fucking Facebook and on Instagram all over about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s being canon or not being canon. And those people, you want to start a fight? Hey, if you want to start a nerd fight, go on Reddit or go somewhere and just post Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't canon. I swear to God, the shit will light a fire. I mean, they will come after you, boy. Woo, boy. And a part of me appreciates the fact that these people are fans of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because I too, like everyone, like you, watched every season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I watched every season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. from the beginning to the end. I watched and I didn't just watch it. I watched it all live, boy. I got off from school. I got off from work, came home and watched that shit, man, every single time it came out. I too was fighting for that show to stay on when the multiple times it was nearly canceled. But I had an interesting journey with that show because the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is terrible. It's not good. It isn't good. It has some sparks, but it isn't good. The second season is okay. Then they have that big Winter Soldier, Hydra's been infiltrated S.H.I.E.D. twist. The main protagonist, Grant Ward, who was the most boring character. It was so funny. To this day, Grant Ward in season 1 was one of the most boring, just useless white meat characters. He was just the most stereotypical main protagonist you've ever seen in anything. Now, granted, technically, Daisy Johnson, well, she wasn't Daisy Johnson yet, she was Skye, but she was the main protagonist. But they were kind of co-main protagonists along with, Phil Coulson, Clark Gregg, Phil Coulson. But I digress. He was so boring, and then they had that twist where it turns out he was a Hydra agent the whole time, and he became evil, and he was a lot more interesting after that. And the show itself was a lot better after that. But the problem with the show was, and it was the problem that ended up kind of fixing itself out once the show kind of went on its own route, is that the entire time in the background there was a shadow war going on in real life between Kevin Feige and Jeff Loeb. And Jeff Loeb, the former guy who used to run Marvel Television, and Kevin Feige. Because Jeff Loeb was butt buddies with Ike Perlmutter. Yes, if that name sounds familiar to you, it's Penny Pinch and Ike Perlmutter, aka dude who tried to not have Tony Stark, who tried to not have Robert Downey Jr. be in Civil War. Dude who tried to not have Black Panther or Captain Marvel made. That guy. He really was penny pinching. This dude was really and Kevin Feige, and as some of you maybe read, and some of you have probably seen many a times, especially when Bob Iger came out with his book, his book talking about his life, and one of the chapters in it was how Kevin Feige came into his office and said, I can't work with this Ike Perlmutter dude. Either I go or he goes, and Bob Iger just reshaped everything. I'm the only one you need to report to, Kevin. And Ike never liked that. Ike still felt salty about that. And Ike Ike and old Perlmutter and Ike and old Jeff Loeb were butt buddies. So there was like this shadow war going in the background of Marvel television and Marvel movies, which is why there was this great divide and they couldn't even say half of the names. But which is why, if you notice, the first couple seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you got Sith showed up from Thor movies. Who else showed up? Maria Hill showed up in an episode. And Nick Fury showed up in an episode. Like, but you notice there's this distinct cutoff. At a certain point, none of it. They just vaguely mention characters from the MCU. But there's no characters that show up. There's no characters that appear. They just vaguely mention it. Because of the Shadow War, like I said, the Shadow War that was going on. It ended up leading to Ike Perlmutter negotiating in a way to snatch the Inhumans from Kevin Feige to make that terrible show. And to this day, Kevin Feige gets shit for that because it was originally announced as a show. No, Ike Perlmutter took it from Feige to make it into a show because he wanted to prove that he can make just as good at things. He can be just as good as Kevin Feige, and it failed miserably. But I digress. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. should have been more than what it is. And I think that with this coming like soft reboot at the end of Secret Wars, which I've talked about this before. I don't think the reboot at the end of I don't think the whole reboot's gonna be this big massive thing. I think they're gonna just bring back some things here, bring back some characters here, bring back some things here, reshape things. I think that this whole Secret War, at the end of Secret Wars, they're simply gonna use this soft reboot to simply place things the way they want them to be placed so they can tell whatever story they want to tell and have the excuse that this event is what led to that. And I think that's what this reboot is, soft reboot is gonna be. And one of the things I think they should do is bring back S.H.I.E.L.D. because S.H.I.E.L.D. hasn't been technically in the MCU since 2014, since Winter Soldier. S.H.I.E.L.D. hasn't been in the MCU, and S.H.I.E.L.D. is such a big IP, and it's such a visually, like, people know what S.H.I.E.L.D. is, and it's kind of sad that IP, that the S.H.I.E.L.D. iconography and IP has basically been shelved because of the events of Winter Soldier. And granted, we got Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and they did a lot of things in there, a lot of things I liked, a lot of things I didn't like, but I don't think, but like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't canon. Like at a certain point, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. stopped being canon. I'd probably say the first 3 seasons could be considered canon, and after that it's just kind of doing its own thing because there are events that happen in that show that are just too big to ignore. There's things that happen in that show that's just like there's no way they wouldn't have mentioned that in a movie. There's no way that like Thor or Captain America or Natasha or anyone wouldn't have showed up and talked about it. And here lies the problem with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and something that you could do better now this time, because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. should have been led by Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury. It should have been Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury. It should have been Maria Hill. It should have been Black Widow. It should have been, maybe you still could have had Clark Gregg in there, but it should have been S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, it should have been. Like, we should have been following Nick Fury, Natasha Romanoff, maybe Clint Barton, because he's a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, Maria Hill. It should have been that. Like, that's what I think of when I think of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I feel like, Marvel has the opportunity to do it the right way this time. To have it be about the core S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, these top S.H.I.E.L.D. agents this time around, if they want to reboot S.H.I.E.L.D. and have it be, bring on Samuel L. Jackson and give him this show. Give him the reins on leading a show where we get to see where we get to see him. Now, granted, they've already done that with Secret Invasion, so maybe you can say not the jury's out, but maybe you can say that time has passed. Hey, they could always do a different Nick Fury. Look, the reboot, they could always have bring on the white Nick Fury. Like, I mean, I don't know if I would do that or not, but they could. Either way, I would love to see an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, which is sort of what the show was, but then it wasn't. Like, because the original premise and the original idea of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents being behind the scenes and behind the scenes in Marvel and cleaning up the messes of these super battles, and you can see the more political aspect and them actually filling out the world and the lore of the world and showing a different perspective on the MCU from the perspective of these human beings who have to live in this world and have to try to sometimes either clean up the messes of some of these heroes or like figure things out or investigate things that are a little below the hero pay grade, because it always feels like in Marvel, at least in the Marvel comics, there's like levels to this, like, you know, I don't know, there's levels to this shit. You know, you got like Thor and the Avengers, there's Thor Avengers level events, and then below that are S.H.I.E.L.D. events. And then below that is like Spider-Man and Daredevil, and below that is like Daredevil. Like, it's like Avengers, S.H.I.E.L.D., it's like Avengers shit. Or actually, I'll go bigger, okay? It's like Doctor Strange, because he deals with interdimensional potential universe-ending threats. Then it's like the Guardians, because they deal with like planetary destroying threats, like multi-planetary destroying threats. Then it's the Avengers. Then it's S.H.I.E.L.D. Then it's like Spider-Man and shit like that. Then it's like the Punisher and Daredevil and things like that. Like, that's kind of a layers to the whole MCU. Like, at least in my opinion, in terms of like, because S.H.I.E.L.D. gets involved in these massive things, in these very grounded things, these drug deals, these like things of that nature. And I thought that the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show couldn't really live up to its potential because of its disconnection from Marvel. S.H.I.E.L.D. should have had Nick Fury popping up in there. It should have had Maria Hill. It should have had Black Widow. Like, those characters are, like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a show that was frustrating because as a Marvel fan, you had an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show without any of the top agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, without the people who you think about when you think about S.H.I.E.L.D. All the people, like the first 5 people you think about when you think about S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, I guarantee you, if you Google best agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., all those names weren't in the show, except Bobby. You know, but once again, that can't be canon because it was already confirmed that Clint Barton's wife was secretly Bobby, aka Mockingbird. So once again, that's another ring in the fact that this show isn't canon. But like the fact that you couldn't have those characters. But this time around, in a rebooted version of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you can have it being held down by Nick Fury. You can have other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents like Clint Barton and whatnot be involved in the show. I feel like you could really do something with it, and I want them to reboot Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. the right way this time. Anyway, thank you guys for joining the Comic Movie Show. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Goodbye.